We all know about the last 2 years, how we've been basically under the impact of coronavirus. Today, however, I'm going to look at it from a different point of view, because every challenge brings along, opportunities, and as old Latin proverbs suggest that fortune actually favors the prepared. So some say the beginning of 2019, others say that even before that, actually the epidemic, the initial sort of cases of the virus had started. At the time, there were already big companies looking into digital transformation, probably more than a decade, including Google's, IBM's, Microsoft of the world. And we were all, of course, anxiously waiting, the world becoming more digitally transformed, becoming more sort of, convenient, so on and so forth. But despite a lot of good work and a lot of progress, it wasn't until, COVID-19 came into the picture that some of these developments, happened. In fact, despite the fact that a lot of big companies really worked on, this area, it was not other than companies like Zoom, which, basically took the main stage and really changed our lives. We even have, right now in our daily language, like you want to Zoom today together, you want to prefer Zoom, versus others rather than really meeting in person. Similarly, and here in this picture, basically, the problem maybe, or the challenge, opportunity is created by COVID-19, but someone like an underdog like Zoom and others basically were able to harvest that opportunity. If you look at some other area as well that COVID brought to our attention is, RNA. Up until probably a few years ago, not everybody really knew about RNA other than what they heard in the, biology classes at high school. But, because of the virus, because of the immediate need, a lot of people, again, major companies, Novartis and Sanofi and others have been really working on RNA. But it turned out to be two basically immigrant couples from Turkey into Germany really cracked the code in one of the ways of creating this vaccine, and working with Pfizer, again a great partnership. They were able to help the population to be able to go back to the office, or at least survive. So here again we can argue that this couple was just lucky, at the right place at the right time, or similar to the Zoom case or other cases that we will see, they actually were already prepared to be able to take the opportunity to address the challenge when it actually comes. So when we look at, again, with those lenses of COVID-19, we see that at least currently the living population already familiar with the invention of electricity, invention of the internet, and I'm not even going back to the invention of the wheel and all the other tools. There were always disruptions. But when we look at, in particular, what we are experiencing in the past 2 years, is that, as Gartner calls it, the biggest experiment in the history of work. So just like the RNA, just like the digital transformation, maybe we are again opening up a door that those of us who are prepared probably is going to harvest it, and the rest of us is going to benefit from that. But are we going to be one of those who are ready, or we are just going to be just standby watchers? So if you look at with that, hybrid work sort of lenses into the impact of the COVID-19, there are actually interestingly good developments. People were basically able to collaborate with one another, even though they were, countries apart. They were able to come up with, social hours, even though it was, over Zoom or other, Teams and, other sort of tools. They actually managed to launch products, feed the populations, deliver the goods, et cetera, et cetera. In fact, even a side positive impact of all of this was reduced traffic, which in the end made the air pollution less in the major cities, and that resulted in actually even some saved lives and saved dollars. If you just look at only that portion and ignore the other, you may say that, well, it's good, now we can go back to normal. But unfortunately, the case doesn't stop there. When we, based on some studies, which I will share on this page as well as upcoming, pages, along with this, productivity and adapting to the virtual world came increased anxiety, losing sense of belonging, longer days. In fact, even though we save the commute time, now we have more meetings, more than 1 hour, close to 1 hour of longer days. And worst of all, this could be all still okay by you if you are individual, but if you are a parent, especially if you are a mother or a woman, the impact has been even worse. More people basically in these categories lost their jobs, or at least reported they have more mental health issues. So we may, again, to be able to cope with all these changes, we could say that, no, it's okay. We have vaccines. We're going to go back to work. Everything is going to be the same that it was before. And we're going to say that, the innovation could only happen when you are face to face. Nobody is going to be differently impacted by this. There's no, DI issues. It's going to be, even if you try to do the opposite, it's going to cost us even more. All those things basically come through our minds and say that we don't need to really do anything about it. However, if we deep dive again and look at a study that was done in 2019 and this year 2021, data actually suggests otherwise. We see that there is an increased attrition. In fact, with the millennials, it's almost 70%, and with the Gen Zers, it is 80+% of the population basically said that they left their jobs because of the mental issues. And this is not just only applicable to them. There's a widespread disclosure about this. More people are actually talking about it at work to the extent that they feel comfortable. Of course, it is highly prevalent. It's not just one group versus the other group. In fact, some of the diverse groups are probably experiencing it more than the others. But all of them are basically saying that 90+% that companies' culture should adjust to be able to support the mental health. So what do the employers actually do? They are not also standing still. There are a lot of, again, solutions being provided. There are tools, there are sessions, there are trainings, and employees are basically responding very positively to those. But nevertheless, again, if you look at the data, only half of those really working, and still there are individuals who are not really fully able to balance between this mental stress and the productivity they are facing. So there is got to be some more needs to be basically happening here. But one good news is that when such challenges are addressed, we are not going to go back to normal or the baseline of engagement. Employees again say that if their corporations, companies, employers support them, they can actually be more productive, more engaged, happier, and actually be proud at working at their places. So there is again a dilemma of a challenge facing us that either we can ignore and leave the consequences in a negative way, or we could actually embrace it, try to find a solution, and in fact become better than where we were before COVID. So what does really then this mean into job creations in this area, as well as some of the startups and innovations that I will talk and then finalize my speech here. So when we look at the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics between 2019 and 2029, at the top of the categories of new job creations or the demand is really coming from, again, in line with the challenges that we are facing, healthcare support, healthcare practitioners, and technical technology solutions. And you may say that, okay, this may be the case in the US. How about the rest of the world? When we look at the rest of the world as well, we see that by another study, there is a higher demand and labor demand shifts towards health aides, technicians, and wellness. And this is not just in the US, as you can see, from France all the way to India. Developed and developing countries are actually seeing the same shift. So while there is this, demand for services and help needed, what are the entrepreneurs doing? So when we look at, again, a picture, and this is 2020 picture by What If Ventures, and what you can see here is that at the time it was about 800 startups, and the author Stephen Hayes basically were suggesting that in this year it is likely to be reaching, about 1,000 mental health startups, and some of them maybe you are even, recognizing: Calm, Headspace, Ginger, Peer, and Me Equilibrium. And I know that I used to work at GE and IBM and currently Honeywell. Some of these tools are actually made available through these big employers to their employees, so that they have more means to be able to monitor their health and cope with some of these mental health challenges. And you may say that, okay, there are those startups, but do really money follow them, or there's some serious measure of this is here to stay? Again, when we look at the data on this, we see that 1/3 of such investments, and there were more than 800 investments in this area. 1/3 of them are in Silicon Valley, no surprise there, but it is also the rest of the US and rest of the world where the investors basically putting their money into these startups. And it's not just the venture capital, right? 55% as shown, but also angel investors, as well as corporate and other accelerators basically putting their money into these endeavors. So in the interest of time, and we lost a little bit of time, at the beginning as well, I'd like to sort of, come into looking back of what we discussed today and say that, yes, COVID-19 came, we wish that it didn't really happen. However, when it came, it actually helped us potentially with the digital transformation, as we looked at it before, and companies like Zoom and others basically emerged with partnership with the big companies or themselves. Similarly, in biology, RNA technology became available. Again, no name like BioNTech at the beginning, but with Pfizer and other partnerships. And probably RNA is going to open up other opportunities with the disease management. And who knows, with the with the challenges that COVID-19 is bringing, forcing us to probably adopt a version of the hybrid work, that we are going to start experiencing some of these health issues much more sort of visibly, including mental health and wellness, and push us to get active in that area. And finally, when we look at those examples, we basically talked about how different and unexpected names appeared and became the center stage. Today, I am also equally hopeful that when these basically studies are going to show that mental health is going to be an important tool for all of us to be happy the way that we are living, but also engaging at our work, whether it is a startup, whether it's a public work, whether it's a private corporations. And we're going to be able to probably achieve better engagement, happier and being more productive at these institutions. And I'm also very hopeful that maybe some of the entrepreneurs in the audience are going to be one of those who are going to really make it happen. Thank you very much.